First contact. The 7 massive Galactic vessels appeared in Earth's orbit on an ordinary Tuesday morning in 2157. They hung in perfect formation above major cities, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent blue-green material unknown to human science. Humanity had long prepared for this moment. First contact with an alien civilization, but the reality still sent shockwaves through global society. Dr. Elena Reyes watched the live feed from her archaeological dig site in Peru. At 38, she had become one of Earth's foremost experts on ancient civilizations, particularly those with technological anomalies that defied conventional historical understanding. Her team had just uncovered another puzzling artifact, a metallic disc with intricate geometric patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Dr. Reyes, "You should see this," called her assistant, Marco. "The aliens are broadcasting worldwide." Elena abandoned the artifact and joined her team around the portable screen. The alien that appeared could almost pass for human at a distance, bipedal with 2 arms and a head, but up close, the differences became apparent. Its skin had a subtle blue tinge with geometric patterns that pulsed with light. 4 pupil-less silver eyes were arranged symmetrically around a smooth face, and its mouth was a simple horizontal slit. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in flawless English, its voice melodic and genderless. "We are the Galactic Confederation, travelers from a star system you call Ta Ceti. We come in peace, seeking knowledge exchange and cultural understanding. We have observed your world for some time and believe both our civilizations will benefit from diplomatic relations." Within days, the United Earth government established formal contact, and preliminary meetings began. The lead Galactic ambassador, who called itself Corzin, addressed the United Nations with a mixture of respect and barely concealed scientific curiosity. "Your species presents an intriguing anomaly," Corzin said, silver eyes pulsing rhythmically. "The Galactic Confederation has contacted 17 spacefaring civilizations across this arm of the galaxy. Based on our developmental models, a species typically requires approximately 15,000 years from basic agriculture to achieve your current technological level. You have done so in less than 10,000. Elena watched the broadcast while carefully documenting the strange disk her team had found. Something about Corzin's statement made her pause. The timeline didn't align with conventional archaeology either, but in the opposite direction. Human civilization showed evidence of being older than currently understood, not younger. 3 months after first contact, Elena received an unexpected invitation to join a joint human-Galactic scientific commission. Her expertise in archaeological anomalies had caught the attention of the aliens, particularly Ambassador Corzin, who personally requested her presence. The meeting took place aboard the primary Galactic vessel hovering above Geneva. Elena felt a strange familiarity as she walked the curving corridors of the alien ship, as though she had been in similar spaces before. "Dr. Reyes," Corzin greeted her, the patterns on its skin shifting to warm yellows and oranges. "Your research into prehistorical technological artifacts has proven most disruptive to our understanding of your species." Elena straightened her posture. "How so, Ambassador?" "We have studied your scientific archives extensively. Your mainstream archaeology suggests human civilization began approximately 12,000 years ago. Yet you have published several papers documenting artifacts that suggest advanced metallurgical knowledge over 30,000 years ago." Corzin's 4 eyes focused intensely on her. "This contradicts both your species' consensus and our developmental models." "Science advances through challenging established theories," Elena replied. "The evidence I've found doesn't fit neatly into our current understanding of human development." Corzin made a gesture that Elena would later learn indicated deep interest. "Would you be willing to share your discoveries with our xenorchaeologists? In exchange, we can provide advanced scanning technology that might help you date and analyze your artifacts with greater precision." The offer was too tempting to refuse. Within weeks, Elena found herself leading a joint human-Galactic expedition to her most promising sites worldwide. The Xelari technology revealed details in her artifacts that had been impossible to detect with human equipment. The metallic disc from Peru contained microscopic circuitry made of an alloy unknown to current human science. Ancient cave paintings in Australia, when viewed through Xelari spectral analyzers, revealed hidden layers showing what appeared to be star maps. And deep beneath the Egyptian desert, ground-penetrating imaging discovered a vast chamber of unknown origin. These findings are troubling, Corzine admitted as they examined the data in a temporary research facility near the Egyptian site. They suggest your species possessed knowledge and technology far beyond your current understanding, then somehow lost it. Elena had been thinking the same thing. Ambassador, have you encountered other species with similar historical inconsistencies? Corzine's skin patterns shifted to deep purple, a sign of concern. Elena had learned. 3 others, all exhibited evidence of technological regression followed by redevelopment. All 3 were eventually confirmed to be survivor colonies. Survivor colonies? From what? Dr. Rice, you are aware that the galaxy is very old, and many civilizations have risen and fallen over billions of years, yes? Elena nodded, feeling a chill despite the desert heat. Sometimes civilization-ending events occur. War, environmental collapse, cosmic disasters. When faced with extinction, some species establish colonies designed to preserve their kind, often with limited technology to ensure survival without attracting attention. Attention from what? Elena asked. Corzine's skin darkened further. That is precisely what we need to discover. As excavation of the Egyptian chamber proceeded, strange phenomena began occurring globally. Reports emerged of people experiencing vivid dreams of advanced cities unlike anything on Earth. Some individuals suddenly demonstrated knowledge of scientific concepts they had never studied, and most disturbing, ancient structures around the world, pyramids, monoliths, megalithic complexes, began emitting low-frequency electromagnetic pulses at regular intervals. Elena herself started experiencing the dreams, visions of traveling among the stars in vessels that seemed both familiar and impossibly advanced. She saw worlds with multiple moons and rings, cities built into mountain ranges that dwarfed the Himalayas, and vast space stations orbiting distant suns. The breakthrough came when the joint team finally breached the Egyptian chamber. The vast underground complex contained technology that defied explanation. Crystalline structures that hummed with energy despite being buried for millennia, holographic displays that activated when humans approached, and walls covered in a script that resembled no known human language yet felt hauntingly familiar to Elena. This chamber was not built by primitive humans, Corzine stated, its skin now pulsing with excited blues and greens. This technology rivals our own, yet it is at least 50,000 years old. As Elena approached one of the crystal columns, it brightened in response. Inexplicably drawn to touch it, she placed her palm against the smooth surface. The crystal flared brilliantly, and information flooded her mind. Images, concepts, language, overwhelming her consciousness. When she recovered minutes later, Elena looked at Corzine with new understanding. You were right about Earth being the survivor colony, she said, her voice steady despite the earth-shattering revelation she now carried. But you were wrong about humanity. We weren't refugees from some disaster elsewhere. She gestured to the chamber around them, the ancient technology now humming to life after 50 millennia of dormancy. Humanity didn't come to Earth from elsewhere. Earth was our beginning. But our empire. She paused, still processing the immensity of what she now knew. Our empire once spanned hundreds of worlds across this galactic arm, and something made us hide our own history from ourselves. Corzine's skin drained of all color, turning a pale, shocked white. Impossible. The developmental timeline was based on incomplete data. Elena finished. Ambassador, we need to contact your confederation immediately, because according to this facility's records, whatever forced humanity to retreat to Earth and erase our own history is still out there. And these systems are waking up because they've detected its return. The awakening. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Humanity's history was far older and more complex than anyone had imagined. What began as a scientific curiosity quickly evolved into a global phenomenon as more ancient sites activated worldwide. The Exilari Confederation, initially skeptical of Elena's claims, dispatched their foremost historians and xenorchaeologists to Earth, now classified as a legacy world, a designation reserved for planets with civilizations of profound historical significance. Elena found herself at the center of it all. The information downloaded into her mind from the crystal in Egypt had transformed her understanding not just of human history, but of physics, astronomy, and technology. She wasn't alone. Across the globe, thousands of people reported sudden insights, technical knowledge appearing fully formed in their minds, and dreams of distant worlds that felt like memories. The genetic markers are unmistakable, explained Dr. Naomi Chen, a geneticist working with the Joint Human Axillary Science Team. Approximately 1 in 10,000 humans carries what we're calling the memory sequence, a previously unidentified section of DNA that appears to store compressed information. Elena nodded, understanding immediately. Our ancestors encoded their knowledge directly into our genetic material, designed to activate when certain conditions were met. Precisely, Dr. Chen confirmed. And those conditions appear to include both reaching a certain technological threshold and exposure to the energy signatures emitted by the activated sites. Corzin, who had become Elena's constant companion in the research effort, displayed patterns of deep blue contemplation on its skin. A remarkable preservation strategy. Your ancestors ensured their knowledge couldn't be completely destroyed, even if all their technology was lost. 3 months after the Egyptian discovery, the largest ancient complex yet was located deep beneath the Antarctic ice. Satellite imaging enhanced by axillary technology revealed a structure nearly 20 kilometers in diameter, buried under 2 kilometers of ice. The United Earth government authorized an immediate expedition, with Elena and Corzin heading the research team. The journey to the Antarctic site was tense. Reports from around the world indicated that the activated ancient sites were increasing their energy output. More concerning were the astronomical observations from both Earth and Axillary vessels, showing unusual gravitational disturbances at the edge of the solar system. Something is coming, Elena said as their transport approached the Antarctic research base. The statement wasn't speculation. She knew it with the certainty of inherited memory. Corzin's skin rippled with anxious patterns. The Axillary Grand Council has authorized me to share restricted historical data with you, Dr. Reyes. Throughout our exploration of nearby systems, we've encountered evidence of a massive conflict approximately 50,000 years ago. Entire star systems rendered uninhabitable, planets reduced to asteroid fields, radiation signatures consistent with weapons far beyond current understanding. The severance, Elena whispered, the term emerging from her activated memories. Corzin's 4 eyes widened. You know of it. Not completely. Just fragments, impressions. A war against something ancient, something that didn't think like us, like any biological life. She pressed her temples, trying to organize the flood of partial memories. We didn't call them enemies. We called them the nullifiers. The Antarctic complex proved to be unlike any of the previous sites. While the others had been relatively small installations with specific purposes, this was clearly a central facility, perhaps even a city. The excavation team created a massive heated dome over their entry point, melting through the ice to reveal an arched gateway large enough to admit vessels the size of passenger aircraft. The entrance was sealed with a material that resembled obsidian, but proved impervious to conventional cutting tools. Elena approached it, drawn by intuition or perhaps activated memory, and placed her palm against the dark surface. Lines of light spread from her hand, tracing complex patterns across the massive door before it silently split down the middle and retracted into the surrounding walls. "How did you know to do that?" asked Marco, who had joined the Antarctic expedition as Elena's assistant. I didn't, Alina admitted, but something in me did. The interior of the complex defied explanation. Vast chambers connected by graceful archways, all illuminated by a soft blue light that seemed to emanate from the material of the structure itself. The architecture combined mathematical precision with organic curves, creating spaces that felt simultaneously ancient and timeless. Most remarkable were the inhabitants, or rather, their remnants. Throughout the complex, they found humanoid figures preserved in transparent cylinders filled with an unknown substance. They appeared to be sleeping, though tests confirmed they had been dead for millennia. They look almost human, Marco observed, studying one of the preserved figures, a tall individual with features similar to modern humans, but with subtle differences, slightly larger craniums, eyes with vertical pupils, and skin with a faint luminescent quality even in death. They are human, Alina said with certainty. Just not Homo sapiens as we classify ourselves today. These are Homo stellaris, star humans, our direct ancestors, genetically engineered for space travel and colonization of diverse environments. Corzin moved from chamber to chamber, its skin displaying patterns of scientific fascination. Your species deliberately modified itself across multiple evolutionary branches. Adaptation was key to our expansion. Alina replied, the knowledge flowing from somewhere deep within her activated genetics. Different environments required different specializations. At the center of the complex, they discovered what could only be described as a control room, a vast circular chamber dominated by a holographic projection of the galaxy. Hundreds of stars were highlighted, connected by lines forming a complex network. When Alina approached the central platform, the projection zoomed in on Earth's solar system, then shifted to show the outer edge where the gravitational disturbances had been detected. The hologram displayed something massive emerging from what appeared to be a fold in space, a construct of impossible geometry, neither ship nor station, but something that defied categorization. Its surface constantly shifted, parts appearing and disappearing as though it existed partially in another dimension. The nullifier vanguard, Alina whispered, the term emerging from her genetic memory. As if in response to her recognition, the entire complex hummed to life. Dormant systems activated throughout the installation, and the preserved bodies in their transparent sarcophagi began to dissolve, their physical forms breaking down into swirling particles that were absorbed into the structure itself. What's happening? Marco backed away, alarmed. Knowledge preservation, Corzin suggested, its scientific training allowing it to analyze the process dispassionately. They're transferring something from the preserved specimens into the facility systems. Alina felt a pressure building in her mind, as though more information was trying to surface from her activated genetics. Not just the facility, but the memory carriers. Throughout the complex, similar scenes were unfolding. The dissolution of the preserved ancestors accelerated, and with it came a wave of activation among the human researchers. Those carrying the memory sequences, approximately 20% of the expedition team, began experiencing rapid downloads of information, some collapsing under the mental strain while others stood transfixed, eyes unfocused as ancient knowledge integrated with their modern consciousness. Alina remained standing, though the influx of information was overwhelming. Fragments coalesced into coherent knowledge, technical specifications for weapons and defense systems, star maps showing safe routes through contested space, encryption protocols for communications that couldn't be intercepted or decoded by the enemy. When the process finally subsided, Alina looked at Corzin with eyes that held 50,000 years of human history. Now I understand, she said, her voice steady despite the profound transformation she had undergone. Why we erased our own history, why we hid on Earth, pretending to be primitive. It was never about preserving ourselves. It was about preserving the galaxy. She turned to the holographic display where the nullifier vanguard loomed at the edge of the solar system. The nullifiers don't just destroy civilizations, they erase them from existence, from history itself. They're living paradoxes, capable of retroactively removing entire species from the timeline. She gestured to the complex around them. Our ancestors couldn't defeat them conventionally, so they implemented the Stellar Memory Protocol. They hid Earth from detection, erased our technological development, and encoded their knowledge into our genetics, designed to reactivate when the threat returned. But why not simply warn future generations? Corzin asked, struggling to comprehend the scale of the deception. Because knowledge of the nullifiers attracts their attention, Elena explained. As long as we believed ourselves to be a young, primitive species, we were invisible to them. But now, she looked at the approaching anomaly in the hologram. Now we've remembered. And they've noticed. The complex's communication systems suddenly activated, connecting with similar installations worldwide. Reports flooded in from every continent, ancient defense platforms rising from ocean depths, hidden bunkers opening in mountain ranges, orbital facilities awakening from camouflaged positions in the asteroid belt. Humanity's forgotten defense network was reactivating. But 50,000 years had passed, and the question remained, would it be enough to face the threat that had once driven humanity's mighty interstellar civilization into hiding? Elena shared a grim look with Corzin. Contact your Confederation. Tell them what we've discovered. If the nullifiers break through here, no civilization in this galactic arm will survive what follows. Legacy reclaimed. The sky above Earth changed color 3 days later. What began as a subtle violet tinge along the horizon rapidly spread across the atmosphere, casting an alien light over the planet. It wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was the activation of Earth's ancient defense grid, dormant for 50 millennia, but now fully operational. In orbit, massive platforms that had disguised themselves as asteroids or remained cloaked in dimensional pockets revealed their true nature. They formed a geometric pattern around the planet, generating a shield of shimmering energy that extended beyond the moon's orbit. On the surface, humanity watched in awe and terror as their world transformed around them. Ancient structures long thought to be mere monuments or natural formations revealing their true technological purpose. The Great Pyramid erupted with blue energy from its peak. Stonehenge's stones levitated and reconfigured into a complex machine. The Nazca lines in Peru began glowing, forming a massive ground-based energy collection grid. Similar activations occurred at ancient sites worldwide, all coordinated through the Antarctic Command Center, where Elena and her team continued to unlock humanity's forgotten capabilities. The Stellar Defense Network is at 60% capacity, Elena reported, interfacing directly with the ancient systems through neural connections that had formed spontaneously among the memory carriers. But the nullifier vanguard will reach Luna's orbit within 72 hours. Corzin, now serving as the official liaison between Earth and the rapidly assembling Silari fleet, displayed patterns of determined orange across its skin. Our first battle group has arrived at the designated coordinates. 4 more are en route, but the nearest is still 5 days from arrival. We won't have 5 days, Elena said grimly, studying the holographic display of the approaching threat. The nullifier vanguard had grown more distinct as it approached, a construct of impossible geometry nearly the size of Earth's moon, its surface constantly shifting between states of matter and energy. Smaller entities had begun detaching from it, each the size of a small city, moving in patterns that defied conventional physics. "What are our options?" asked Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force, recently appointed as military commander of humanity's response. Elena hesitated. The memories flowing through her mind offered knowledge but few certainties. The records indicate our ancestors fought a 1,000-year war against the nullifiers before implementing the Stellar Memory Protocol. Conventional weapons were largely ineffective. The nullifiers exist partially outside normal spacetime, making them difficult to target or damage with physical weapons. Then what did work? The Admiral pressed. Consciousness weapons, Elena answered, the concept emerging from her genetic memory. The nullifiers aren't just machines or entities. They're manifestations of a form of anti-consciousness, a negation of complex thought. They target civilizations based on cognitive complexity, seeking to simplify the universe by removing higher consciousness from it. Corzin's skin rippled with scientific fascination despite the dire circumstances. Are you suggesting they can be countered with thought? Not exactly, Elena clarified. Our ancestors developed technology that could amplify and project conscious intention, creating fields that forced the nullifiers fully into our reality, making them vulnerable to conventional attacks. She gestured to a section of the control room where crystal columns hummed with increasing intensity. These are cognitive amplifiers, designed to be operated by trained consciousness pilots. Do we have such pilots? Admiral Chen asked. Elena met his gaze steadily. We do now. The memory carriers are activating rapidly worldwide. Over 20,000 individuals have now accessed the inherited knowledge, and many possess the specific neural patterns required for piloting the amplifiers. The next 48 hours saw the most remarkable mobilization in human history. Memory carriers from around the world were transported to the ancient facilities where they could interface with the defense systems. The HFY, overcoming their initial shock at discovering Earth's true history, provided crucial technological support, adapting their modern systems to interface with humanity's ancient technology. Most significantly, they contributed their considerable knowledge of quantum communications, establishing an instantaneous network linking all defense installations and the growing fleet of combined human auxiliary vessels assembling in orbit. Elena found herself at the center of it all, her mind now a bridge between past and present, personal identity and collective memory. The knowledge flowing through her consciousness was overwhelming. Technical specifications for weapons beyond modern understanding, strategic analyses of nullifier behavior patterns, the accumulated wisdom of a civilization that had once dominated a significant portion of the galaxy. We've identified a potential weakness, she announced during a global command briefing 24 hours before the expected engagement. The Vanguard uses quantum entanglement to maintain coherence between its components. If we can disrupt that entanglement at a specific frequency, we might force it to consolidate into normal spacetime, making it vulnerable to conventional attacks. How do we generate such a disruption? Asked one of the auxiliary commanders, its skin patterned with tactical calculations. The consciousness amplifiers, Elena replied, operated simultaneously by trained pilots focusing on the same quantum signature. The Antarctic facility contains the primary amplifier. It can coordinate the others and direct their combined output. The plan took shape rapidly. The ancient defense grid would concentrate its energy on creating a containment field around the approaching Vanguard, preventing it from dispersing into higher dimensions when attacked. The consciousness amplifiers, operated by the most capable memory carriers, would target the nullifier's quantum entanglement, and the combined fleet would deliver the conventional firepower necessary to destroy the entity once it was fully manifested in normal space. As the final hours approached, Elena prepared to take her position at the primary amplifier in Antarctica. Corzin found her in a quiet chamber, meditating to organize the flood of ancient knowledge flowing through her mind. The Auxiliary Confederation has existed for 12,000 years, the alien said, its skin showing patterns of deep respect. We thought ourselves among the elder races of this galactic region. To discover that humanity once built an empire that dwarfed our own, then sacrificed that legacy to protect all life in this sector, it humbles us. Elena opened her eyes. The memories suggest we weren't always worthy of such admiration. Pride, expansion, conflict with other species, these were all part of our history too. Perhaps the severance, as terrible as it was, gave humanity a second chance to evolve more wisely. And now, Corzin asked, now we face the choice that confronts all civilizations eventually, Elena said, rising to her feet. Whether to reach for the stars with open hands or closed fists. She managed a small smile. Having seen both paths in my inherited memories, I prefer the former. The attack began exactly as predicted. The nullifier Vanguard reached Luna's orbit and immediately began disintegrating Earth's satellite, converting its mass into smaller nullifier constructs. The ancient defense grid activated at full power, creating a shimmering bubble of energy that enclosed the solar system out to Mars' orbit. Elena took her position at the primary amplifier, surrounded by 24 other memory carriers. Their minds linked through the ancient technology, creating a collective consciousness that was more than the sum of its parts. Through this expanded awareness, Elena could perceive the nullifier in ways impossible through conventional senses. It wasn't merely a physical threat. It was a cosmic wrong, a knot in the fabric of reality where consciousness itself was being negated. The smaller constructs it generated weren't separate entities, but extensions of a single negating principle, a cancer in the living universe. Initiating quantum disruption, Elena announced, her voice echoing through the global command network as she and the other pilots synchronized their thoughts through the amplifiers. The effect was immediate and visible even to conventional sensors. The nullifier vanguard's constant shifting slowed, its impossible geometry struggling to maintain coherence as the amplifiers forced it fully into normal spacetime. Parts of it began to solidify, revealing glimpses of its true nature. A construct of dark crystalline material that absorbed light and energy, studded with structures that resembled inverted towers and non-Euclidean architecture. It's working, Admiral Chen reported from the Orbital Command Center. We're registering physical mass where before there were only energy signatures. The fleet is moving into position for the first attack run. The combined human auxiliary fleet launched their assault. Thousands of vessels from both civilizations, armed with everything from conventional missiles to exotic auxiliary particle weapons. The first salvos struck the partially materialized vanguard, tearing through sections that had been forced into normal space. But the nullifier was far from defenseless. Even partially constrained, it lashed out with weapons that defied comprehension, beams that didn't so much destroy targets as erase them from existence, leaving no debris, no energy signature, nothing to indicate they had ever been there at all. 15% of the fleet, gone, reported a shaken tactical officer. Not destroyed. They're just absent from all sensors and records. In the Antarctic complex, Elena and the other pilots fought a battle on a different front. The nullifier had become aware of their efforts and was now directing its attention toward the consciousness amplifiers, attempting to sever their connection and free itself from the constraints they had imposed. Elena felt it as a cold presence in her expanded awareness, a void that negated thought and memory. It probed their collective consciousness, seeking weaknesses, attempting to introduce contradictions and paradoxes that would disrupt their focus. "It's attacking the link between us," one of the other pilots gasped, his concentration wavering. "Hold the pattern," Elena commanded, drawing on the strategic experience of her inherited memories. "It can't attack what it doesn't understand. Human consciousness is familiar to it. That's why it targets civilizations like ours. But we have something it hasn't encountered before." She reached out mentally to Corzin, who had joined the link as an observer, integrating its alien consciousness into their network. The auxiliary mind, evolved along a different path than human neurology, introduced patterns the nullifier couldn't easily negate. "All auxiliary pilots, join the network," Elena broadcast through the command system. "Your thought patterns will create disruptions in the nullifier's attacks." As auxiliary consciousness pilots integrated into the amplifier network, the effect was immediate. The cold presence withdrawing, confused by the hybrid thought patterns it couldn't easily categorize or negate. The quantum disruption strengthened, forcing more of the vanguard into normal space. 70% materialization achieved, Admiral Chen reported. Primary weapons platforms are locked on the vanguard's central mass. The ancient orbital platforms, now fully activated, aligned their focus on the increasingly solid form of the nullifier vanguard. Energy gathered at their focal points, combining into a single coherent beam that struck the entity with such force that space itself seemed to bend around the impact point. The vanguard shuddered, its geometric integrity failing as the combined assault from fleet and defense grid overwhelmed its weakened defenses, Cracks appeared in its crystalline structure, rapidly propagating through its mass. Containment is holding, Elena reported through the amplifier link. The nullifier cannot retreat into higher dimensions. Continue the assault. The final stage of the battle lasted less than 20 minutes. The combined firepower of two civilizations, humanity's ancient weapons, and modern determination alongside Sci-Fi technical precision, systematically dismantled the vanguard as the consciousness amplifiers prevented it from escaping. When the last fragment had been reduced to inert matter, a silence fell across the command network. The violet light in Earth's sky gradually faded, returning to its natural blue as the defense grid powered down to standby levels. In the Antarctic Control Center, Elena disengaged from the primary amplifier, exhausted but clear-minded. The memories that had flooded her consciousness had begun to organize themselves, integrating with her own identity rather than overwhelming it. "It's over," Corzin asked, approaching as technicians tended to the other pilots. "This battle is," Elena confirmed, "but the records indicate there are more vanguards. This was just the first to reach us." Admiral Chen joined them, his uniform showing signs of the stress he'd endured in the orbital command center. "Then we prepare for the next. How much time do we have?" Elena consulted the ancient knowledge now accessible to her. The nullifiers move methodically. Based on historical patterns, we have perhaps a decade before the next vanguard arrives. "A decade to understand our true heritage," the Admiral mused. "To reintegrate this ancient knowledge with our modern civilization. To strengthen our alliance with the Exilari and reach out to other spacefaring species." Corzin's skin displayed patterns of contemplative blue. "The Exilari Confederation has already voted unanimously to form a permanent defensive alliance with Earth. Your ancestral sacrifice protected this entire sector of the galaxy, whether they knew it or not. That debt cannot be repaid, but it can be honored." Elena walked to the holographic display, which now showed not just Earth's solar system, but hundreds of highlighted worlds throughout the nearby galactic arm, former colonies and outposts of humanity's forgotten empire. Some remained lifeless after the ancient war, but others showed signs of redevelopment by other species or untouched potential for recolonization. "We won't make the same mistakes as before," she said, thinking of the less admirable aspects of humanity's first stellar age revealed in her inherited memories. "We won't reach for the stars out of pride or conquest, but out of necessity and cooperation." She turned to face the others, her expression resolute. "Our ancestors sacrificed everything they had built to protect life in this galaxy. They accepted regression to prehistoric conditions, the loss of their identity as a spacefaring civilization, millennia of struggling upward from stone tools to spacecraft, all to hide from an enemy that could erase them from existence." Elena gestured to the images of distant worlds, once part of humanity's domain. "We won't dishonor that sacrifice by repeating their mistakes, but neither will we hide any longer. Humanity has remembered its legacy. Now we must prove ourselves worthy of reclaiming it." As dawn broke over Antarctica, the first rays of sunlight caught the crystalline spires of the ancient complex, now fully revealed as the ice continued to melt around it. Similar scenes played out across the planet as humanity's forgotten technology integrated with the modern world, bridges between a recovered past and a newly possible future. 50,000 years ago, humanity had hidden itself away, sacrificing empire for survival. Now, remembered knowledge flowing through the minds of thousands of memory carriers and ancient technology awakening worldwide, Earth prepared to reclaim its place among the stars. Not as conquerors, but as guardians against the darkness that sought to erase all complex consciousness from the universe. The legacy was remembered, and this time, humanity would not face the void alone.